Hello everyone and welcome back to a new kind of Nuzlocke, a monotype Nuzlocke. I know this is quite a trend and it's just become like a bandwagon that everyone just jumps on now, but I have been meaning to do one for ages. I actually thought this idea before the trend came out, but I never really thought about doing it. But this is probably going to be a one-off. Unless this video gets a lot of support and people really want me to do more monotype Nuzlockes, this specific kind of Nuzlocke isn't really my preferred way to play, so it's more just a one-off just to see how it is. But regardless, here I'm going to do a hardcore Nuzlocke with the standard hardcore Nuzlocke rules in Pokemon Saphire, with one of the very few types in the game that hasn't actually been done yet in Gen 3, ground types. Yes, now I can only use ground types. The only exception is that I will allow mudkip, even though it's mono water, as it's a starter I guess, and it's a ground pre-evolution. And I mean, like, yeah, you could ban mudkip and try to beat the first gym with like nincaa if you want, but come on, would you? The good thing is that in this challenge there's quite a nice amount of ground types that you can use. The only issue is that there aren't too many ways to handle your weaknesses, which in any monotype run, handling a common weakness is probably the biggest problem. Water moves can be handled somewhat by Flygon, Swamper and Wishcash, even though most water types do have ice moves that can destroy Flygon, so against like Glacier you're really going to have to look out against that. But grass types can only really be handled by Flygon and camerupt. In Flygon you only get like the end of the game anyways, so some battles can be a bit scuffed, but overall that aside, this Nuzlocke is very doable. So with everything established, let the Nuzlocke begin. Okay, so the game begins and obviously I pick my first Pokemon, Mudkip. Now, what I do is I reset the game over and over again until I get a really good Mudkip, and this one is so good. I wasn't really sure what kind of nature to pick, but I would say pretty much any neutral or ideally a minus speed nature is best. You could go minus special attack, but I decided to go with sassy nature is the most optimal one, with also really good IVs. This thing is proper like top percentile. But I think sassy nature is better because special attacks are going to be the primary issue in this run, particularly water types, ice types and grass types, so you want something that can take special hits pretty well, and with these IVs in some nice EV training, Swampert can potentially carry this run. So the run starts and there's not really that much to see. There was this one fight where I almost lost that Zigzagoon, so that would have been a pretty epic fail. But I'm making my way right before the first gym. Nothing here is going to challenge you at all, and I get my first Pokemon, which is going to be nincaa out. This thing is bug ground and it's kind of a weird one. I'm not allowed to evolve this, so it has to stay as nincaa, so early game is actually kind of useful for one or two fights. It doesn't do very much. It has like leech life and sand attack, and that's pretty much it. It is very good for the Maze Grovyle fight after Gym 2, so it's really useful for that, but apart from that, it's mostly just going to be fodder for late game, and that's pretty much it. Like, you're not going to be using it at all, which is kind of funny. So yeah, just go to the first gym and you just win. You can spam water gun and just win. I almost did this without taking a single point of damage, which is kind of funny. I was actually under leveled also, but what I did was I just used Mud Slap on Nose Pass, and then it just cannot hit you at all, because I actually forgot that in this game Rock Tomb is only 80% accuracy. So yeah, there's really nothing to see there at all. Get Marshtomp, so now we got Mono Ground, and Marshtomp at this point in the game is really strong with its really good IVs in nature. So just make our way to the second gym, and right before Brawly we can now catch our third Pokemon of our team, which is Geodude. This thing, I feel it's pretty solid, but at the same time, you don't need it that much. You can get Golem pretty early. The problem with Golem is that it's very weak to grass and water, and it's got pretty low special defense. And yes, it has really good physical defense, but physical attacks aren't really that much of a problem anyways. So against Elite Four, Golem, it's not going to be the most helpful thing, unfortunately. But early game, for Archie and Flannery, for example, it could still be really useful, and especially for Winona. So it's still a pretty good mon. I mean, Golem does have really good stats. Mine even had a relaxed nature, so I guess that's really nice. Okay, so Gym 2 next, and I actually thought this would be a lot harder than it actually was. If you don't have a really good Marshtomp, you could definitely lose this fight. I only bothered edging up Marshtomp because edging is just a bit time consuming, I can't really be bothered, but because of bulk up spam, this fight can be hard. But that ended up not being a problem, so I was just able to two-shot the Machop with Mudshot. I even got a crit, which I don't know if it even mattered. Turns out my Marshop had literally 31 attack IVs, which is pretty disgusting. Then Magahita came out and, okay, this could get pretty dicey if it says a bulk up and it has a citrus berry. But I get critical hit, so it didn't matter at all. That was kind of anticlimactic. Right before the next rival battle, make sure you pick up Soft Sand. I don't think I even used the Soft Sand, which is kind of funny, but yeah, it's picked up anyways. So next up is going to be the rival battle. Now, you could get unlucky with this against the Grovyle, and that thing could potentially be problematic, but I got reasonably close to the level cap, so if you do that, you should be fine. The only thing you need to remotely worry about is a Grovyle. So what I did was I used Marshtomp to get off 2 Mud Slaps. It is bulky enough to take Absorb pretty well. It can always take a critical hit at full health, so you can always at least Mud Slap it once, and because of my really good IVs and slight level advantage, I can take 2 pretty easily. So once the Grovyle's been Mud Slapped, its accuracy is pretty low. You can go to nincaa. Nincaa should be able to beat it. You can just spam Leech Life at that point, you should be able to beat it. Absorb is such a weak move, and Leech Life will hit it surprisingly hard for a base 20 power move. So you'll still win really easily, you don't need to worry about that. So moving on, go straight to the next gym battle, and as you can tell from the electric type gym leader, this is an absolute meme. Literally Mudshot everything, and you win. That's literally it. Yeah, nothing to see there. So after that, we can now get another ground type Pokemon, Numel, and this thing, though in Gen 3 Camerupt is a pretty bad mon, unfortunately, it is probably like one of the worst mons in the game, I would say, because defensive typing is so bad and its stats are really lackluster. Camerupt is really good for 1 or 2 specific situations. It can be nice in some niche situations, so it's still really nice to have. Fortunately, it doesn't evolve until later on, but oh well. After Numel, turns out that you actually can encounter Sandshrew, but the funny thing is, I forgot to get Sandshrew until later on. I actually never knew that you can get it here, so yeah, had I gotten Sandshrew here, this part of the game would have been even easier, but... So here's the Archie fight, and this was actually the first hard fight of the game. Had I had the Sand Slashers, it would have been easier, but there was a lot of RNG on both sides here. So the Mychena, I think shouldn't be too much of an issue. Golem should be able to easily destroy it because his stats are so much better. If it weren't for the fact that Golem was continuously missing and getting flinched. Again and again. Even my other mons were just not able to do too much to it. And this got really dicey. I had to dodge a crit on Golem because I was just so done with his RNG. I think my Golem got flinched like 5 times in a row. So Marshtomp had to basically carry this whole fight single-handedly, which is pretty crazy. It was almost literally just 3-on-1 with Marshtomp, and thankfully I gave it Ice Beam. With Ice Beam it was able to take out Golbat, but without that I would have definitely lost this fight. In the Sharpedo, I was just able to take that down. Thankfully it went for focused energy instead of just attacking. And had it got a critical hit with Crunch, which is like 12% likelihood, I would have just... Marshall would have died, I probably would have just lost one right there, so I got really lucky there. But to be honest, I got really unlucky in the first place with getting flinched 5 times in a row. The good news is, this is literally like the hardest battle in the run until like the Elite Four, so things get a lot better. Now next up is Flannery, and this was just like nothing happened here basically. Just Marshtomp, start spamming Mudshot, then Mudslap Torkoal, then Golem just destroys Torkoal. So yeah, moving on. Now I go back and I catch the Sandshrew so I can get Sandslash. Then I teach it TM Dig, which you can get. That's going to be really good for Norman. Yeah, had I gone this before Archie, I would have made that fight a lot less of a clutch, but it doesn't matter now. I go to the desert now, and this is a pretty important encounter. You can get either Baltoy or Trapinch, and thank God I get Trapinch as my first encounter. But yeah, you really want to get Flygon. Like, you could still run Claydol, but you really want Flygon to deal with water types and grass types. So next up is Gym 5, and this can get a little bit tense. The way that I somewhat was able to cheese this fight was I just had Sandslash use Dig to kind of cheese his slacking. This sounds like a really good strategy, right? But the problem is I only have 10 Dig PP and I wasn't dealing enough damage to slacking. So I can at least take out Norman's first 2 Mons. Actually, I think my Marshtomp had to dodge a crit. Yes, it definitely had dodge a crit. That was kind of Pepica. But shit really started to hit the fan when the Camerupt had Focus Punch, which I completely forgot about. So that was able to destroy Sandslash. So that was really unfortunate. I mean, to be honest, Sandslash is not the most vital Pokemon in this run. It really isn't. It's just a mono ground. It literally has like no ground moves apart from Dig. You're going to give Earthquake to Flygon, so you really don't need Sandslash very much, so it's not a big loss. But at least now that I know it's got Focus Punch, Golem could just continuously attack it, and the AI just... Okay, now moving on. This is also one of the very few actual challenging fights of this run. Now, I actually forgot that in Ruby and Sapphire, unlike Emerald, the level cap for Winona is actually level 33, and not level 35 like I originally thought it was. So I got my Trapinch up to level 35 only to realise that, oh wait, I actually can use this. But to be honest, Vibrava isn't really the strongest Mon anyways, and you're not going to be using Trapinch anyways at this point. You don't really use Trapinch that much until it becomes Flygon, like at the very end of the game anyways. But yeah, the main battle here in Rain is probably one of the very few actual difficult fights, because Grovyle has Leaf Blade and it can outspeed everything on your team, and there's not too much you can do against it. Luckily, I did come out with the strategy, which I did calculate, and it worked here, but there is a decent probability it does not work. If you get hit by like double crit, or if you have bad IVs, or if you miss overheat, you could potentially just get completely wrecked. But yeah, the Grovyle is quite a pain, but thankfully Camerupt was just able to switch in and one-shot it with overheat, which was a pretty spicy move. I think Flamethrower would have been enough, so I would have recommended using Flamethrower instead, but I just used overheat and I ended up destroying it just the same, so that was a clutch. Had I gotten really unlucky in Camerupt with a critical hit, the run would have probably just ended right there, so that was a pretty lucky moment. At this point, you really don't have that many ways of dealing with. So after that, we can now get another ground type Pokemon, and this is going to be a pretty good one. Barboach. Barboach, it is kind of just Swampert light. Swampert at home, you know, Swampert minus, but it's still a pretty good Mon. Water Ground is such good typing, and its moveset and stats are good enough to be very useful against the Elite Four. It's a ground type that's not weak to water and ice, so that is pretty valuable. So after that, we have access to Winona. Now, she's really not that hard. Golem can absolutely destroy the lead Swellow. Skarmy gets absolutely destroyed by Camerupt. Pelipper can get destroyed by Wishcash really easily. The Pelipper, it really froze for some reason, which is kind of funny. Then Altaria can get destroyed by several different Mons, like Golem could probably handle it. I use Ice Beam Marshtomp, or you could use Ice Beam Wishcash, but that's really not an issue. It's not difficult at all, so just destroy it and move on. It's pretty funny how, like, after this gym, I look at the stats, and it turns out that my Marshtomp actually has better stats than my Wishcash, which is pretty funny. It does go to show that wishcash really is Swampert at home, but it's more to do with the fact that the Marshmallow Pad's really good nature in IVs, where wishcash doesn't necessarily. Like now I get Swampert and it is an absolute beast. This thing has such good stats. But yet, literally nothing of note happens before Tate and Lisa. Even Tate and Lisa was an absolute meme, as you're about to see. But right before that, I get Fampi. Now I actually forgot that you can get Fampi in the Sapphire Zone. This is a pretty good ground type mon. If you played Emerald Kaizo, you know this thing's an absolute beast, even though it doesn't have shell armor here. But this thing, it's basically Sandslash plus. Sandslash is basically Donphan at home, which is kind of a problem I have with a lot of these games. Like, Sandslash is really bad compared to Donphan. It's just worse in every way. But Donphan, like another thing that makes it really, really good is that it actually learns Earthquake by level up, and it's just such a good physical wall. So it's just a very good mon. I'm quite happy with it. Now moving on to Tate and Lisa. I'm even one level under and nothing happens. I almost won the fight in one turn, but the Solark was just able to hold on. Oh well. Yeah, that fight was kind of funny. Such a meme compared to the Emerald variant. So right before the Archie battle, make sure you pick up that TM Earthquake. You need that for Flygon. Resolve the plot with Kyogre, where I basically just run away from it. It's kind of anticlimactic, but yeah, I'm not fighting that thing. I actually completely forgot in hindsight, and I've only just realised now that I could have literally used Groudon in a mono ground run. I don't know why I never thought about that until now. To be honest, using Groudon would have been a little bit too meme-tastic. But yeah, just going to the final gym leader, and this actually can be a little bit tricky, because you don't have that many ways of handling the Milotic. You're going to have to do some EV training, and I bit the bullet and did some EV grinding, but because I can do 2000% speed up on my laptop, it really didn't take that long. It only took me like half an hour to gain a whole bunch of EVs. And I did have the edge for this fight. Milotic is like the big threat, and there's really not too much you can do about it. You have to use Wishcash and Swampert. They can deal a lot of damage to it. But the problem is, they're going to be taking a lot of damage against the first 3 mons, because your other mons aren't going to handle them very well. So Wishcash does put a lot of work and destroys everything apart from Milotic, but the Milotic is such a pain, and I definitely could have lost this battle. There was some really close calls with the Wishcash where it literally survived with 1 HP. I think that was like a min-max roll, so that was really clutch. That tiny little bit of EV trading I did completely saved me. Swampert versus Milotic was really tense. I didn't have Earthquake on it, so I couldn't deal that much damage. So I just resolved to spamming Mud Slap on Milotic, which is a pretty desperate play. But I just was not dealing enough damage to it. It just became this big stall war with me spamming Mud Slap and Milotic missing over and over again. And yeah, I had to dodge another crit. But thankfully, somehow, it is such a stupid way to win this fight. Now that Milotic's at -6 and my Swampert ran out of PP, I had to go into Donphan and destroy it with strength, of all things. Only in this channel will you see things like a Donphan beating a Milotic with strength. But yeah, that actually happened. I mean, to be honest, Donphan would have been able to definitely tank like 1 or 2 water pulses anyways, because it's got pretty nice bulk. But yeah, thank God for that. If Wishcash went down, I potentially would have lost his entire Nuzlocke, because Elite Four would have been so much harder, but that is really fortunate. Now I can get Flygon. You never really use Flygon until the very end of the game, but when you do get it, it is really nice. Oh yeah, just to flex, now I go and destroy the final May battle. I kind of just avoided that, but yeah. I just want to flex my newly evolved Flygon. Go to Victory Road and clear it out. Wally is really not a problem at all. Like, you can destroy his mons really easily, especially if you're a little bit higher level than him. So now it's time for Elite Four, and to make this harder, I set the level cap to level 53, so I'm actually significantly under leveled from the champion, and I just did this to make it a little bit more interesting, because if I was level 55 edged up to level 56, the first 2 Elite Four members would be absolute memes, and it would have made it a lot easier. So first up is Sydney, and I still have a big level advantage over him, and he basically just does nothing. Swampert almost one-shots my channel with Surf, which is pretty dang strong. But he just doesn't really do anything. Like, he does have Cacturn, but that can just get destroyed by Flygon. And Sharpedo just gets destroyed by Wishcash. He barely does any damage to me at all. Once his grass type goes down, Swampert just goes off and beats everything. Camerupt can then destroy the final Shiftry, and that's pretty much it. There really wasn't that much to see there. But the first fight's always really easy in this game. So next up is Phoebe, and she's barely any harder than Sydney, really. Donphan with Earthquake deals a lot of damage. The only problem is that it does get PP stalled, and I did miscalc and risk the crit on Donphan, which in hindsight I should not have done, but like, the Dusclops and Bannettes, they don't do too much to me. They all get pretty much two-shotted, so the fight was really anticlimactic, so there's really nothing else to see here either. However, the third Elite Four member, Glacia, as you might expect, yeah, this was the hard one. This fight is also pretty RNG reliant, and you can totally get unlucky. A lot of things could go wrong, and this was a big clench. She has 2 Glalie, and those things are really not nice to handle. Wishcash and Swampert are going to have to do most of the work. Thankfully, my Wishcash was just able to 2-shot Glalie with Earthquake, and the Celios as well, but it does take damage in the process, which is pretty bad. I did have to risk a crit already on my Wishcash, which is not a good way to start this battle. And Swampert, now it does have Earthquake, which is a really good move. It still takes quite a bit of damage. The problem is that the really big mistake that I made in hindsight, which is really stupid on me, is that I should have used Camerupt to destroy the Glalies and keep my Wishcash and Swampert at high HP. That was actually a really big misplay, and I don't know why I did that. It's like I almost forgot that Camerupt was in my party. I barely actually used Camerupt in this run anyway, so to an extent I kind of just forgot it was there this whole time. But I was able to 2-shot the last Glalie. But the final Walrein, that thing was really hard to beat. The final Walrein was a big pain, and unfortunately I had no choice but to sack to it. It did miss Blizzard on Golem, but then I missed as well. So unfortunately, Golem had to die. Like, Golem could have actually beaten the Walrein, which is kind of funny, but no, it didn't. Golem's sacrifice allowed Flygon to come in and finish off the Walrein, so thank God for that. This fight definitely could have gone really badly. The Nuzlocke could have ended, but it's sad I lost Golem, but to be honest, at this point, I don't really need Golem anymore anyways. It's played its part. I really don't need it for the rest of the run anyways, so it's all good. Drake was surprisingly easy. Literally Ice Beam everything. That's it. You just, like, Swampert and Wishcash just wins. It was kind of funny, so at least that was quite easy. But now here's the champion. The final battle of the entire run. Skarmory can get destroyed by my under-leveled Camerupt, gets one-shotted, and it also takes out Aggron, which is pretty good. Now, Metagross, that thing is pretty strong, but Donphan is just strong enough to barely take 2 hits and hit it really hard. And Flygon came in and finished it off, though had I gone hit by crits, I would have definitely lost someone, but you know, I didn't really care about sacking at this point. It was the final battle, so if I had to sack someone, it didn't really matter anyways. Like, I could have, Metagross is really easy to just revenge kill anyway, so it didn't really matter. Usually Claydol sucks, but here was surprisingly threatening and dealt quite a bit of damage to my Swampert. Credilli, this thing was really rough to beat. I barely had anything for this. The only 2 mons that could easily beat this one-on-one, Flygon and Camerupt, are both damaged quite a lot. So I actually completely forgot about this thing, and I barely had any way of beating it. So I had no choice but to sack my Swampert, which kind of sucked, but you know, at this point of the run it doesn't even matter. Now Camerupt had to come in and attempt to take out the Cordilli. It didn't manage to do that, which is really unfortunate. The Flygon also attempted to take out the Cordilli and it was just able to do so. But at this point the run's basically over anyways because he's only got Armaldo left and it's not going to do that much. I've got Wishcash which just easily destroys that. But with that done, the run is pretty much over. I will say, overall, if you do plan and you do damage calcs and you properly EV train and you really play carefully, this run is not so bad. It's actually pretty easy. I, on the other hand, didn't really do any of those things. So I did have a few hard fights. I could probably count them in one hand, but overall I would say I did kind of luck out that I managed to do this on my first try. I did get quite lucky. You will need to ideally have a decent plan for a lot of the boss fights. Then the champion's going to be ridiculously hard to beat. But with that, that's pretty much my ground monotype Nuzlocke done. So to be honest, I know people really like this and it's all the rage now, but I didn't really find it to be that enjoyable. It was just okay to do it once. I don't think I'm going to be doing this again unless I get a lot of people wanting me to do this and there's a lot of demand. So if you want me to do more monotype Nuzlocks, then definitely let me know. I might even do it in ROM hacks like Renegade Platinum or something. That would be quite an interesting idea for a monotype Nuzlocke. With that, that's pretty much the video over, and thank you guys for watching and I'll see you all next time. This is Nuzlocke Enjoyer, signing out.